site visit. So let me explain just a little bit how it goes. So when you apply for submit your gold application, of course, not everybody gets the site visit. We, as a master examiners, we have a team of 3 or 4. We read your application word by word. We spend hours and hours, and I remember we are volunteer examiners. So we spend our precious personal time to read your application, spend hours and hours. So we really appreciate the good applications, not just you submit just because, but good applications like your application. And then when we read the application, we have a very specific criteria and a standard that application has to meet for us to recommend a facility to get the site visit. So we are not the one who who determines if you're not, whether or not you should get the site visit. We have a 14 judges. We call it Gold judges. They're like super expert judges. They will determine based on the information that we give to the judges whether or not that facility should get a site visit. So once judges decide, okay, that sounds good enough, okay, examiners, go to the actual facility and then see what's going on. And among dozens, probably some years, over 100 applications, only a very handful gets the site visit. So just the fact that your facility has been selected to get a site visit, that's already a huge accomplishment. It's only like a 9 or 10, I think, this year that get site visit. So you already accomplished so much. The purpose of the site visit, yes, you should really, deserve an applause. It's a huge, huge accomplishment. As so many more applications didn't really make it to the site visit. It's a nation. It's a national award. So you're chosen, one of chosen like 9 or 10 in the nation, not just Florida. So what happens is, when the site visit is done, still, us examiners are not the one who decide whether or not you should get the gold award. We collect information in a very specific way that we are trained to collect, and put that information back into the judges panel. And then we present just the factual findings in a very specific way. And then all the groups, different groups, that goes to the different site visit, does the same thing. Each team does the same thing to the judges. And then judges will make determination. Judges already know that you are kind of on the way to the gold, by the fact that you got the site visit. The only thing that they need to decide is whether or not you actually cross that threshold, or you're still a little bit way to go. That's the difference between, if you get the site gold or not after the site visit. You're already on the right track. Matter of fact, is just you already crossed that threshold. You're still a little bit way to go, and that's what the site visit is about. So during the site visit, there are 3 examiners, and then 1 staff person from the American Healthcare Association. That's a national association that represent like state associations like us. So they split up in 2 groups, and they may interview certain people in the room, or some may go around and ask you random questions, or they may stop you, and then just give me a few seconds to chat, or they may ask you to do some kind of a group interview. Either way, it's not a survey, it's not an audit. And an important thing is that there's no right or wrong answer for this interview. Surveys, they're looking for, looking to see if you're doing the right thing or the right way or wrong way or whatever. This one, there's no right or wrong answer. Whatever you answer is your answer. And then remember, not any single person can be a deal breaker. So don't worry about, oh, if I say something wrong and then I screw up the whole thing. It doesn't happen. Not a single person can. This is a very complicated, comprehensive process. So possibly any, like one person can turn anything upside down. So don't worry about, if you're doing, if you're answering the right way or wrong way, or is that a right answer or wrong answer? There's none. Just be honest, and the examiners, I'm sure they're friendly enough, and then if they ask something that you don't really understand, please tell them that you don't really understand the question. Sometimes it's a very technical area, and then sometimes, examiners may use some technical terms not intentionally. And then if you don't really understand the word, like I have no idea, what you're talking about, well, you don't have to say that, but, like, would you rephrase that question? Or are you asking me something like this? You can rephrase, your own, way to make sure that you understand it right. If the examiner is still asking you questions that you don't really understand, or you see some concerns in examiner's behavior, do always report to Debbie, and then Debbie will talk with the examiners, the team leaders. And again, that wouldn't, I assure you, that wouldn't affect your final outcomes. We will just only resolve the way we do in interviews, but it wouldn't negatively affect your final decision. So this site visit, they focus on 6 different areas of your organization. So information or they're collecting, or the questions that you may be asked, could be any of those 6 areas. The first area is leadership. Their examiners are looking to see what kind of leadership system you have in this facility. So they're asking leadership team all the leadership type of questions, but they may ask you about the leadership. A typical question could be, how do you normally communicate with your leaders? And then leaders might not be your immediate supervisors, like the department heads, directors, administrator level. How do you communicate normally? Or if there's any program or something that leadership team said that they have, they may ask you, I understand you have this kind of a recognition program. Have you ever participated in that? Or have you ever recognized in that program? Or have you ever received something like this? So you might be asked some specific questions like that. And that's the leadership category, category 1. Category 2 is about the strategic planning. And I don't really believe that you'll be asked a lot of strategic planning related questions. If the only thing that I probably have asked before is that if the organization has either improvement activities or committees or something that the leadership team said, oh, we always include frontline staff. We may ask you, have you ever participated in the improvement activities, or have you ever served in the committees, or something like that? That's probably the extent of it for the category 2, which is the strategic planning process. Category 3, you may be asked more questions on that because that's about the customers. Category 3 is how do you, questions are like, how do you communicate with your customers? How do you listen to your customers? How do you get information that you're looking for from the customers? How do you know your customers are happy? How do you know customers are unhappy? How do you do when you get complaints from the customers? So that's about the customers. So examiners may have more questions, for everybody on that category, because that's how you take care of your customers. Category 4 is another section that may not relate to all of you, and then you may not get a lot of questions because it's about information and data. So if you are in the position that deal with specific information or data. You collect MDS data, you collect certain data. Then you may be asked, how do you collect information? Tell me, how you select data. Tell me how you do this, review your data, or something like this. But other than that, may not be that much. The only thing that I can think of for that section is that something about that, like an education or a service related, but probably not much. So that's category 4. Category 5 is another big area that may relate to all of you, because that's about workforce. So that's how organization treat its workforce. So the examiners probably may have a lot of questions, anything from staffing, your career opportunities, your professional development, how you communicate with your supervisors or leadership team in terms of your career goals or evaluation, how your professional development, like an education program, works. Anything related to your work fits into this category. So when examiners go around, they may ask you a lot of questions how leadership team or organization have for you to work here. If you're newer employees, they might ask you, how did the orientation go? How the onboarding process work? If you are mentors, they may ask you, I understand you're a mentor. Tell me how it worked. That kind of questions. Mostly it's open-ended questions. So those are the questions that you may be able to expect for this section as category 5, the workforce. The last category is operations, and it's very high-level questions that I don't think examiners have a lot of questions to many of you. That's probably directed to mostly the administrative sort of level areas. Maybe some related questions could be a disaster preparedness, because the last part of the category 6 is about how you prepare for your disasters. So you may be asked, how do you do drills, or have you learned anything from your drills, or how often do you do that kind of thing. But maybe not. So those are the questions that you may be asked by the examiners, either individually in the passing, or you may be asked to form some group and then do a little bit of a focus group type of questions. But either way, there won't be any questions that you don't understand. If there are questions that you don't understand, you either tell the examiners that you don't understand, or tell Debbie. So those 6 areas are most important part of the organization. And then you should at least know what the examiners are focusing on. 1, leadership. 2, strategic planning. Strategic planning is that the plan that organization decide where the organization wants to go. 3, how you focus on customers. 4, how you use data and information. 5, how the organization manage its workforce. And then 6, how the organization operates effectively. So those are the 6 areas that at least I would like you to know what the examiners are looking for and are focusing on during the site visit. Any questions or concerns? And then if examiners walk around and the site visit examiners are not necessarily in a nursing home people, so if they don't really understand what the nature of your work is, and then you really need to take care of the resident instead of asking, responding to examiners' questions, just tell them, I'm sorry, I really need to attend to the resident for, at this moment. Can I, would you come back, or can I, let you know when I'm available? So don't worry about, being pulled in the most, inconvenient or inappropriate, timing. Do tell examiners, they're not auditors, they're not surveyors, they don't care, and then they want you to do your job while they're on a site visit. So don't be concerned that you may not be able to sit down or stop what you do to answer their questions. Any questions or concerns? They'll be here probably really early morning to late. They will need to speak with not everybody, but at least the representation from each shift or each unit. So, for example, if they need to come back in the middle of the night to talk with the night shift, they will. Yeah, I have. I've been to the facility like at 2 in the morning to talk with the night shift, and at least like representation from like each department or each unit. Each segment of your workforce, like if you're like supervisors, your direct care, your leadership position, the sample needs to be pulled from each. So it's quite likely that you will be, one way or another, you'll be speaking with one of the examiners. But please, just don't be concerned, don't be worried. No right or wrong answers. Just keep that in mind. Anything to add, Debbie?
No. So just talk to them and be eager to talk to them. Okay.
Oh, yes.
They're not surveyors. They're gold side examiners. They're anxious to talk to you. I know surveyors. We say only answer the questions that they give you. These brag. Talk about what you do, talk about what we do, talk about what we do as an organization. We wouldn't be at this gold level getting a site visit if we weren't doing what we do. And so you guys, some of you that have been at other facilities, I know a lot of you have been here for quite some time. So some of you don't remember what it was like at other facilities, but some of you do. So tell them how we're different. Tell them how the communication goes. Tell them how about your different systems. Tell them about TELS, about the clinical alerts, about the secure conversations. Tell them, all the different ways that you communicate with each other, with me, with other people, with the doctors, with the patients. How do you know the patients? With your consistent assignment, by, with your constant caseload that the therapy has, by, the housekeeping, you're consistently in every neighborhood. So, and dietary, you guys are consistently in every neighborhood. Those are important. Those are things that help you to get to know those patients. And sometimes there are things that we don't realize we're doing differently. We don't realize it's different from other facilities because we do it and we're immersed in it and we're here every day. But talk about it. Talk about how you do it.
And then sometimes the questions may not be so straightforward. How do you communicate with your leaders? Sometimes we ask questions like, if you are the top of this organization and you can change one thing, what would that be? Examiners can answer something like that too. And then you'll wonder, what does that have to do with anything about the gold? But somehow it may or it may not. And then also, when we interview you without your supervisors, that conversation will never communicate it to anybody else. So if Debbie asks like, oh, how did it go? What did they say? I said, sorry, I can't tell. It doesn't go outside of the little conversation. That's the examiner's rule. The examiners are not allowed to share. Although you can, you're free to share. If you're interviewed and you can say, oh, what is it? What they asked. What did you say? You're free to share whatever. It's up to you. But examiners won't share what they hear outside of the little, interview sort of parameter.
Okay, so are we ready for Tuesday and Wednesday? Remember, no vacations Tuesday and Wednesday. No call outs. I'm going to come get you. I know where all of you live. I have your addresses. I've been to most of your houses to pick you out. All right, any questions? Everybody, the sign-in sheet is... Somebody hold up the sign-in sheet. Gloria has a sign-in sheet. You guys over there, if you haven't signed in, go over here.